Hey guys, Alex from 7th Hour Films back again with Vinland Saga. Last time around, Slave. Because we followed a young man named Einar, which I was saying Einar a lot last episode, but as I was going through the edit, it is more obvious that they're saying Einar, Einaru, something like that, in their own Japanese way of saying it, So I'll try to start saying Einar because I think that's more correct. So technically, though, that means I should have been saying Ashled the entire time instead of Askled. So, oh well, doesn't matter. But we were following a young man whose village was raided by Vikings, and he was sold into slavery. It was passed around a little bit until eventually he landed on a farmer in northern England who, ironically, is farming the very land that his village was on. So now he is going to farm the land once again. But before that, he encountered a peculiar old man looking for a young, small, blonde boy named Thorfinn. And this came to roost, basically, because at the end of the episode, his new master introduced him to one of the other slaves. Thorfinn. Our Thorfinn. We have no idea how Thorfinn got here, but here he is, and he seems a little broken, so we have questions. We have many questions. But that was pretty much it, but it was a very, very great start to the season, and I'm so excited to see where we're going from here. But yeah, like always, the reaction is down in the description and in the pinned comment for your viewing pleasure. So why don't we just go ahead and jump right into this episode of Vinland Saga. Here we go. It's too short, man. Dang it. That's the first time I've ever thought, man, that episode's too short. I thought I was thinking, I was like, is that the end or is that the halfway point? It might be the halfway point. And then it ended. I was like, damn it. So I'm guessing that was the first village. The first village they attacked when Thorfinn was young. Like, not when he was... I don't think that's where he got his first kill. Maybe it is. I don't think so. But none of those guys were any of Askeladd's guys, so... But I think it was before he started training with the dagger, I think that was, like, the first time when he was, like, running through the forest, trying to find, food and water, basically. And then eventually... I think at the end of that episode, then... he challenged Askled to a duel, and that's when he was still using the sword, and he couldn't use it properly because it was too heavy for him. And then after that, he switched to using Thor's dagger. So I think that's the village specifically. He remembers that village. So I mean, it is interesting to see, not only Einar's, like, perspective on warriors and stuff, but also, hearing about this, hearing about Olmar, who, he wants to go off, he wants to be a warrior, he wants to join Prince Canute's army, and he's, he carries a sword with him, because he thinks he's that good, and it's like, oh, bitch, no, you're not. Like, you want to know who a real warrior is? Thorfinn was a real warrior. And look where he is now. I do like they're just not really explaining how Thorfinn got in this situation. I mean, you can take a guess that, after striking the prince, that he would have ended up being sold off. But even then, like, you don't... Like, we don't get any into the mindset, what has happened to Thorfinn pretty much since Askeladd's death, So it's an interesting choice, If anything, like, I mean, again, Thorfinn is not really the main character. Like, the story now is being driven by Einar, and Thorfinn is there, That said, Thorfinn does seem to be a bit more active, you know? Like, I think he talked more in this episode than, like, the back half of season 1. Like, it is ridiculous. Oh, boy. But yeah, so the two of them, they have their mission, their objective, which I like that at least. And that's the thing, it's like, you know, because we questioned last episode, like, okay, what kind of a master is this guy going to be? Which I should probably get his name, so I don't just call him Master so much. If I could type in my phone code correctly. There we go. Vinland Saga, Season 2, Episode 2. If I could spell Vinland correctly. Oh. I guess he's probably Ketil. Hence the name Ketil's Farm. Yeah, Ketil. Alright. Good. I figured it out. But Ketil, so we were questioning, you know, what kind of a master is Ketil? And I like that it's like, no, he really is. Like, from the little bit that we had last episode, it's like, no, he is kind of a good guy, you know? Like, if anything, he's... It's an interesting thing, you know, because it's exactly what I said last episode, is the difference between ancient slavery and the more, like, you know, modern versions of slavery, basically, you know, the kind that America saw during, you know, prior to the Civil War, basically, or the kind that ended during the Civil War is what I'm trying to say, you know, which all of that is based on race, and, you know, you have these slave owners just treating them like absolute dog water, you know. I was gonna say dog shit. I don't know why water came out, but you know what I mean. I think you got the point. But anyway, they're just treating them like they're the lowest of the low, just whips everywhere, just the most brutal working conditions. And here, I mean, conditions may not be amazing, but it's not that, oh, you know, they make it so horrible. It's like, these are just conditions of a farm, you know, in the, you know, just at the beginning of the second millennium, you know? Second? Yeah, technically second, if you want to call it that. You know, the early 1000s, basically. They still also haven't said what year this takes place in, you know? Like, throughout last season, we got so many different timestamps, basically, of what year it was, so that we could see the progression of time. We don't know how long it's been since the end of season 1, you know? Like, we can only infer a little bit just off of, you know, Thorfinn getting some stubble, basically, you know? So, yeah, but still, just the whole thing with Ketil, but it's just an interesting thing, like, seeing what kind of a slave master he is. I mean, he's just buying slaves because he needs people to work, you know? He needs people to work, and he doesn't treat them as, you know, subhuman or anything. He's just like, it's literally, it's almost just like, I don't know how to, like, describe it. That doesn't still sound horrible. But the thing is, like, you know, it's a thing of, like, instead of just, like, hiring people, he just buys them. I don't know how to, like, describe this properly. It's like, he's just sort of taking advantage of this service. Like, you know, there is a slave trade. There are people, you know, being sold as slaves. Well, I'm gonna, you know, go buy a couple and we'll work on the farm, you know? But, I don't know. But he doesn't treat them as subhuman. He just treats them as, hey, you know, you were a slave, and, you know, I can't just free you because then I've wasted money. But what I can do, so that both of us have a benefit, is I will allow you to work towards your freedom, you know? Which, that's at least something, you know? Is that you can at least work towards your freedom with this. So they need to cultivate a wheat farm. First they need to chop down all these trees. Then they can plant all the wheat and everything. And then, you know, if they make... pretty much they make a good... They make such a good wheat farm that he comes in and is like, all right, this is good work, and this is all you. I'm going to buy it from you, and there you go, and now you're free. you're free, you got some money, you can go do whatever you want. You can stay there, apparently, as some of the other freedmen do. But at that point, you could just go off, Like, in 3, 4, 5 years, maybe, Thorfinn could pretty much leave. He could leave and he could go back to Iceland, maybe, hope that his mother is still alive, and maybe even head towards Vinland. But I don't know, but it's an interesting thing, it's an interesting thing. And the fact that Ketil is out working the fields, he's not just some guy who sits in his chair and barks orders and cracks the whip, like, he's out there, he's working his own land, and good for him, because I mean, if anything, it's like, if he doesn't do that, there does lead the question of, well, what's he gonna do all day? He's literally just gonna sit on his ass because there's nothing else that he has. He has a farm, so in his mind, he's like, well, I'm gonna go work that farm then, And if anything, that probably helps morale. Everyone out there working, it's like, your boss, the guy who owns you, who could just go fuck off, he's out here, he's working with you, So that probably improves morale, And even like there in that scene where he's like, hey, everyone, let's get this done before noon. And everyone's like, all right, let's go, So it's an interesting thing. I like seeing that dynamic, It's an interesting dynamic, and one I feel like is not portrayed very much in I suppose, I was gonna say Western media. This isn't Western though, but you know what I mean, in media. So, I mean, it really is one of those things where it's like, man, if you have any interest in like history, and especially Viking history and everything, it's like Viking to Middle Ages, I suppose. Oh, this show is so good. And if you don't have an interest in it, watch it anyway. You'll have an interest in it, But with the good Master Ketil comes his not so great son. Not even that he's because at first I was like, oh, so is he going to be kind of the cruel one where his father is? And it's like, no, it's not even that. He's just dumb and doesn't want to farm. Which, I mean, that's one thing. It's like, see, it's a thing of like, on the one hand, I understand, like, you should be able to go and pursue your own dreams and do whatever you want, even if it's, but on the other hand, it's like, well, it's foolish to join Canut's army, It's foolish for him to join Canut's army. It's the same thing, at the beginning of the series when, you have all the other boys around Iceland, and they're all excited, we get to go off to war with Thors, and Thors is like, oh, these boys, they are not cut out for this. And they weren't. They were nothing against Askeladd and his men, And they were lucky that Thors was able to save them and bring them back home. It's just like, and it's fine. You don't gotta be a warrior, You don't gotta be a warrior. Which honestly is also just sort of the same thing that Thorfinn had to go through, but Thorfinn did end up becoming a warrior. If only for survival, Like, he did it because he literally had to survive and to, try to get his revenge on Askeladd, which went well. But yeah, but it's the same thing. And, it's the irony with Almar that, Almar is basically a mirror to what Einar was last episode, or Einar, sorry. I said I was going to start using Einar. I'm probably going to go back and forth, whatever. But it's the same thing where Einar was like, I'm training, I'm training so that I can become a warrior. And his mom was just like, shut the fuck up and just come eat your damn lunch. You'll be a farmer, And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's kind of the same thing here, where even the girl he's banging is just like, why don't you stay here? She's a nice girl. She was a nice girl, but Almar can't see past his own ego. And again, it's a thing of like, well, if you don't want to be a farmer, then sure, don't be a farmer. I understand that, I do. But at the same time, it's like, you do have a good situation here. I mean, it's a thing of like, he needs some sort of a life experience to understand why he probably should be a farmer, It's like, you should let him go. You should let him go in a sense of, like, he needs to go experience this. It's a thing of, like, maybe not even, go and experience what it's like being in Canute's army, but, go and experience something, and then you can make a decision. Do you want to stay with that, or do you want to go back to what you were doing? And there's no shame in going back to what you were doing, just so because there is, if he takes over the farm, there is going to always be this lingering question of, what if? What if he had gone and joined Prince Canute's army? Maybe he could have been the best. Realistically, he would have died immediately. The man can't figure out that his sword is too long to put on his back, So, which is an interesting thing, because I have been rewatching a bit of season 1, and, there are moments where, like, Thor's will put his sword on his back. I assume it's a shorter sword, though, than the one that he had. Like, he probably had more of a longer sword, which is why you just can't do that, It's like, I assume it depends on the sword. It's like if you, had, like, a Roman gladius on your back. A Roman gladius is short enough, you could probably do that, but that's the thing, is this guy, he's just wearing a sword because he thinks he's all that. And he's not all that. He doesn't even realize that, no, you can't put your sword there. You can't put a sword that long on your back. It should be on your waist, because on your waist, you can do that. And it's all nice and good, But anyway, but I also, I like that even the girl he was banging was just like, maybe you should stay here, Maybe you should stay here and live and just be a farmer, You've got a good thing here, He's got so much land. He makes money. He can live a comfortable life, But that's the thing. And you could even say that, what I'm talking about of, like, oh, maybe he should go and experience this so he realizes what he can have. It's kind of the same thing that happened at the end of last season when, I forgot his name. I think it was Atli. When Atli, was leaving with Torgrim. I think that was it. Yeah, I think his name was Atli. And, Askeladd gave him, that thing of gold. And he was like, you can only have this if you promise me never to be a warrior again. Go get a wife, raise a family, cultivate a farm. Just do not pick up a sword again, Because that's the thing. It's like, you don't need to be a warrior, You don't need to be a warrior. Askeladd probably should have never been a warrior. He only did so because he wanted to protect his mother and get revenge on his father. And he did, unlike Thorfinn, So it's a whole thing. And it's nice, at least, that, where we had this sort of like, oh, I'm so good, I'm gonna go be a warrior. I like that we had that with Einar in the last episode. And it's just like, yeah, he's immediately, like, that is not part of his character, really. Like, that's just the setup of understanding, he's just a bright-eyed young man, But now, he's looking at the reality of everything, and he is at least thinking, hey, I can work towards my freedom, Because he didn't even understand that. He didn't understand that sort of a concept. To him, slavery means no more freedom. You are a slave for life, but it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't actually have to be that way. And so now he has a new path towards life, A new path to take his life, And who knows, there may be a hot blonde girl there. Or a hot blonde boy, if he goes for Thorfinn, That would have been funny, actually. It was just like, oh, this is like, did you get distracted by the long-haired blonde? Yeah, I did that too. I used to do that too. I know he didn't, but I will never get over how funny it is, the idea of shipping Thorfinn and Canute. It's just, to me, it's the funniest thing, even if it's obviously not canon. Oh boy, I mean, we've been talking for a while, haven't we? That's what Vinland Saga does, man. I can't stress enough how much I love Vinland Saga. Honestly, right now, at least, this is my absolute favorite show that we do on the channel. And maybe my favorite since, well, I mean, I was going to say since Mob Psycho, but that we only finished Mob Psycho earlier this year when we were starting Vinland Saga. But this is definitely, this is so fucking good, man. It's so good. And I hope it's not tiresome how much I praise Vinland Saga. I don't think that's a thing. I assume if you're here, you also praise Vinland Saga as much as I do, but I don't know. I just friggin' love this show, man. It's so, so good. So, but that is basically it. With all of that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of my Vinland Saga reactions, as well as another video you can go click on if you want. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later. Of the ones I left behind that I